Welcome to Life by Design, episode 332. Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards, and I'm joined today, as always, with my good friend, Dr. Horatio Jug.
It's not as always, but it's always good when it happens.
Ooh, that was a good little spin there, Horatio.
I see. I kind of keep you on your toes.
We are creators of Life by Design with many locations worldwide. Each week on the show, we discuss the principles and the practice of Life by Design. Today, we're talking about a myth that exists, one of many, when it comes to chiropractic and corrective chiropractic. And this myth is that somehow going to a chiropractor is going to create a herniated disc. Now, that would terrify people if that was actually true, or even if that gets propagated as true. So we thought, you know what, since there is some research that we can talk about, and as you noted in your notes, Horatio, that bad news travels much faster than good, let's bring some good news to people and let them know that that's not the case.
Yeah, it's, and again, I'm not, nobody's against scrutinizing and breaking down these ideas, right? Because when chiropractic was first formed, it was the cure for everything. And it didn't take very long to figure out that chiropractic is not the cure for everything, let alone the cure for anything, right? Like as we progress and as more data comes out, because again, the principle, one of the key components to Life by Design is that reality exists. So no matter what story you're trying to weave, we really need to look at the facts and align what we're saying with what the data is showing us.
And, so let's start off with some context, since you alluded to it there, that to us, this approach to chiropractic that deals with the spine and nervous system and working towards correcting problems with the spine and nervous system in terms of movement problems, neurological problems, what we would consider a core problem with the spine and nervous system through some type of corrective care or some type of corrective thrust or technique. This approach really is intended to do exactly what I just said, which is correct the core problem, not necessarily the collateral damage that comes from that or that may or may not be fully related to that. So you'd say, chiropractic properly applied is not a cure for any condition. In my eyes, that's true. That said, if there's a core problem with the spine and nervous system, correcting that problem is going to have a positive benefit on the physiology of the body in many different ways, which we won't even get into today. And no matter what your condition is, whether it's a physical health condition like a herniated disc, like back pain, like headaches, like shoulder problems, a lot of things people would, relate to chiropractic, but even immune system problems that we see, people with energy problems, just healing and repair issues, conditions that don't seem to be repairing on their own. As you correct or enhance the physiology, it just makes sense that better physiology means better function for the body. So our position is, if we can detect a core problem with the spine and nervous system through some type of objective analysis, then that person is better off with that.
Yes. You have a medical doctor in your life to manage and handle your diseases and conditions. And the way that we practice chiropractic is, like you said, we deal with movement deficiency of the spine and help enhance that and help your spine and nervous system work better.
Right. And that's good for anybody who has a problem with their spine. And the only way to know if you have a problem with your spine is not, number one, through the presence of symptoms. The only way to know is through objective analysis. So think more in terms of dentistry and orthodontics, right? You may or may not know that there's a cavity. You may or may not know that there's a structural change with the teeth. That's why you seek out care from a dentist, or analysis, I should say, from a dentist or an orthodontist, and then they will be able to advise you as to whether you need some help. Now, let's assume you reach that point and you decide, hey, I'd like to have my spine assessed. I'd like to find out if there is a core problem, how it's affecting my body, if it's affecting my health. But then you see this headline, don't go to a chiropractor because they can create or cause a herniated disc. What do we say about that, Horatio? Or what does the research say about that?
So some context right behind the study. So the associated mechanism with this was, in the study, they talk about 70% of the population is going to be affected by back pain at some time in their life. And on any given day, I think it's between 15 and 30% of people are suffering from back pain. So we've made the association in the past, because chiropractic works on your spine, that, chiropractic and back pain link up. And then, the concern was that going to the chiropractor, because there's usually some type of physical examination or some type of something physically happens, you get corrected, or if you're going to a symptomatic chiropractor, they're going to treat the problem, usually doing some type of physical manipulation or something like that, that somehow that force or that thrust or whatever happens on that visit has mechanically caused more damage to the acute, to the pain, and that's resulted in an acute disc herniation.
Gotcha.
And again, there's nothing, that's a pretty, listening to that, doesn't seem like an unreasonable conclusion to me.
Sure.
You hear that, you're like, okay, well, maybe they twisted me too hard, or maybe because there's inflammation and somebody's thrusting on that joint now. It sounds like something that we should investigate. So it was a large group. I think there was, I know CMCC was in on the study, but there was also some orthopedic surgeons. It was done in Ontario. So what they did was they looked at the database of all the visits, for a really lengthy period of time, between people who went to the chiropractor with low back pain and people who went to the medical doctor with low back pain. And now what ended up happening, and the conclusion of the study was that low back pain can be prodromal to an acute lumbar disc herniation. So what happens is you've herniated your disc. It just so happens that the first symptom of that is low back pain. So it doesn't matter whether you choose to go to a chiropractor or whether you go to your primary care physician or your medical doctor, the risk of that disc herniation happening was the same with both.
Right. So if I'm clear on this study, then in both cases, no matter which provider a patient went to, whether they had or did not have a herniated disc post those visits was the actual same or within the same range.
Yes. So what happened was they herniated the herniation was diagnosed at the same rate. And we know that getting a disc herniation from your medical doctor is impossible, because most medical doctors don't perform any type of physical examination even. It's just a case history. And then usually a referral or some type of prescription is written on most visits, right? So we know that it's, the fact that people are herniating discs at the same rate, whether they go to, with low back pain, whether they go to their medical doctor or their chiropractor, it's a reasonable conclusion to say, well, hey, this has got nothing to do with it.
Right, exactly. And to make it really clear and simple for people, the same number of people, the same rate of cases, whether you sit in a chair and listen to somebody speak to you, or whether you receive some type of care to the spine, they still had the same rate of herniated disc. And so the mechanism, as you explained, Cratio, is they already had the herniated disc.
Right.
And so going for the consultation or going for care did not accelerate or cause, I should say, a herniated disc. It was already there. And so we see this in lots of other types of cases and conditions. Of course, there's limitations to these studies. I mean, this is obviously a correlation, and we can't, claim direct causation in that sense. You're looking at a database, so you're not necessarily, from what I understand, looking at, MRIs and specific tests, pre and post, so it's not quite to that degree where you can make the case, but it's a logical conclusion that there's a good chance that in this instance, people just had low back pain because they had a herniated disc, and no matter what they did, it was going to happen anyway. So that said, go ahead.
Sorry, the sample size was incredible. It was like a lot of people, if I remember correctly.
You said it was many, many tens of thousands.
Yeah, even like 100,000, or it was a lot. The sample size was big.
Right, which is great. I mean, that adds to the
validity.
Yeah, the robust nature of the study and what that information means to us. So that's fantastic. And I think the take home is this. It's great to look into all of these things, right? Like you said, reality exists. So it just makes sense that we continue to explore and make sure that, the things that we're providing for people in terms of healthcare, whether it be a chiropractor, a medical doctor, otherwise, are as safe as possible. Right. Mm-hmm. If I found out that, there's a certain specific situation where if somebody had XYZ pain pattern and you did XYZ approach, you're going to herniate a disc, then I'm probably not going to do that. Right.
Exactly.
And I would want to know that. And so this is not the case. I would hope that other professions would do the same. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that a lot of procedures or particular conditions get explored that, well, what if I have this condition and I take these medications, or what if I have this condition and you provide this therapy or treatment for me. So I'd like to see more of that. I think that would actually be beneficial to the lay public, for them to feel confident and safe in whatever provider they were to explore. On the chiropractic side, it makes me happy because of course, we believe, and the science is strong to say, that taking care of the spine is an important thing to do. I've never seen someone who has come in an acute situation and then had a herniated disc happen due to anything that we did to them. So it does match up with what we see clinically. And I just hope that hearing this information helps more people find their way into a great chiropractic office to receive care that they need, versus being repelled for something that isn't actually true.
Yeah, I can't comment about the first thing you said. I'm just happy that, I tend not to read the studies about medicine and medication that often. I'm more concerned with providing great chiropractic care to my community. But it's interesting with these things, like, we pride ourselves on being scientific and the facts of reality, but many people, and myself included, for some things, when faced with the facts, we still don't choose to accept those facts, no matter what they are. So I think that's human nature,
Sure.
and the way it's going to go for some people, regardless of what they see, read, hear, reason, it doesn't matter.
Sure. For some people, decisions are already made in advance based on other types of things, whether it be value systems or belief systems that they have. The research, one way or the other, isn't going to make a difference. For me, as a clinical provider, I love research. I think it helps clarify the picture most of the time. Right? Yeah, and
for us.
In my experience, in our profession, most of the time, it actually is in the favor of our approach, in the sense of taking care of the spine as an organ and as a system and as a unit, versus addressing symptoms and addressing individual conditions. So I'm happy about that. And it just reinforces what we see clinically every day, which is people getting better, functioning better, feeling better, performing better, and living healthier lives with chiropractic, more so than they would without chiropractic. And I think for us, this model that we've been promoting for the last 15 years is exactly that. Regardless of what particular health level you have, what state you're in, what conditions you've got to, if you have symptoms or no symptoms, if you have a spine, just like dentistry, 50 years ago was in a position where you'd go when your teeth hurt. You'd go when you felt like there was something wrong with your teeth. And now, of course, people have ongoing dental care. They learn how to manage and take care of their teeth and oral cavity. And I think this is where we are with chiropractic. Is we're in a phase where there's a transition. People recognize, whether it be clinical experience or now through some of the research, that taking care of the spine is just something that's good for you. And of course, that all starts with some type of assessment to make sure that there is an objective problem that can be assessed, corrected, and then monitored. So guys, make sure you find an actual wonderful chiropractic office. I know we said this before, but shoot us a message. We would love to tell you where to go. We have offices all over the world who are practicing in this model, and we'd love to refer you there and make sure that you're getting the proper care and the best care for you. So guys, if you go to the show notes, you can check out this study and all the other things we talked about today, lifebydesign.com/podcast. Check out today's episode. And thank you, as always, for joining the drive to 1 million families worldwide living life by design.